So we've got Kenny T opportunity hour this week, and of many ventures.
Right.
Let's
Most definitely.
uh let's talk about you for a little bit and some of the things you're involved with right now.
Yeah, definitely. So, Kenny Thomas, I'm originally from the Bronx, New York. Grew up in Maryland, and my parents were both military, so I spent a lot of time, traveling and kind of seeing the world, seeing different perspectives on things. I I joined the Air Force when I was about 21 years old. I started off as a maintainer, started fixing airplanes, worked on airplanes for a few years. Then I got a scholarship, went to school, got a degree in mathematics, and became a navigator in the Air Force. Served on active duty in the Air Force for a little over 10 years. Then I recently became a reservist, reserve navigator. But along that journey, I earned my all my pilot ratings while I was in the Air Force on active duty. And some of the things that kind of drove me to the things I do is I always wanted to get into aviation. I always wanted to fly, but I really didn't know how to do it, and I didn't have people around me to kind of show me how to get there. So the first opportunities I had to find ways to reach back, to be able to show others that aviation is a possibility and really how to do it, because it seems so far off to become a pilot. It's one of those things people look back like, you're a pilot? Like, how does that even happen? And even if you really want to do it, if you don't know the path to get there or the resources to get there, it's kind of the barriers to entry are kind of high in that regard. So those were some of the things that kind of drove the things that I'm involved with. Legacy Flight Academy, organization that I'm one of the co-founders of, and then Kilo Tango Aviation, which is business that me and my family have. So, and I've been involved in so many other aviation organizations. Just staying involved, and it's been real near to my heart. So yeah.
Let's talk Legacy Flight Academy.
Yeah, so my piece in that, I remember I was at Robins Air Force Base, and I had gone and I think I just earned my private pilot certificate, and I went up to Atlanta Motor Speedway flying, and I remember seeing a bunch of kids out flying with Civil Air Patrol, and I wondered why I hadn't seen things like this growing up. So to make this the first part of it short is I ended up getting with some of my fellow airmen, lieutenants, captains, and said, "Hey, I want to create an opportunity for kids to learn to fly." So I rented a plane, worked with the flight school on base. We bought some pizzas, and we took some kids flying. I mean, it was as simple as that. It was like we got some kids from the local school and we took them flying, and that was so huge because after I did it, I remember people saying, "Man, I don't know why people don't do things like this." And I was like, "It wasn't hard. It just was a matter of just going out and doing it. It wasn't overly complicated. It was just do it." But everywhere you go, there's all these barriers. People are like, "Oh, well, what if this happens? What if that happens?" And a lot of apprehension to making things happen, even when people want to see change. So I had started that, and that was my eyes above the horizon. I did that a couple of times. I had met that same year one of my partners, Kenyatta Ruffin, who had started actual Legacy Flight Academy, which was just a summer camp at the time. That he kind of had the same thing. He's like, I want to give back, and so he did a summer program. And he had did it two times, and the second time was when I met him. And then our other partner, Aaron Jones, he was just going to different schools and motivating kids on aviation by telling them, his story and how he got in aviation, and really just really pushing them and showing them that they're no different than we are. And so after all of us got together and we saw that we were moving in the same direction, we did something that I tend not to see a lot of, is instead of saying, "Hey, this is my program, this is your program," it was, "We have these programs that we're doing and they all go in line together. We need to work together and pull our resources together to create change, instead of trying to create all these different things. Let's put it together." And that's where Legacy Flight Academy, as the whole as it is now, that's where it started. was from all of us putting the things we had going together. And as soon as we did that, we went from, when I was doing Eyes Above the Horizon, we were taking probably, 12 kids at a time flying. Aaron Jones was going and talking to 3, 4, 5 kids. And Kenyatta, he was doing camps with like 12 kids. The next time we did an event, we had 68 kids at Moton Field that we introduced to flying by taking them flying, introducing them to other military professionals. And in one day, we took what we had and we escalated it. And from there, we had been able to repeat that process of going to different cities and, you know, taking 60 to 100 kids at any given time and basically changing the perspective of not just the kids, but the community and those in that community on what they could do and what they could be. Because once the leaders of the community, the leaders of those youth organizations just see that, oh man, our kids can do this, it's another tool in their tool belt to help guide and motivate the kids. So we've done that over and over, since 2012 was the inception of LFA, and when we all combined all our stuff, it was about 2015. So it's actually about to be 6 years. It's 2011 now. So um, and that's what we've done year in and year out. And with this last year that came up with when COVID hit, it was a shock and a big blow to everybody in aviation. And what we recognized was, as with a lot of organizations that stayed stagnant and were like, well, we just can't do the things that we do, we pivoted and we went from doing our programs we did to doing our virtual PAR, virtual passenger responsibility program, where we were doing interactive, Zoom courses with kids, teaching them how to become pilots. We were doing different things on social media just to stay engaged, and we used, a lot of our younger members of the organization to help drive that, because those were the ones who were really savvy at that and knew how to make that happen. And we pivoted and we grew with that. And I think that was one of the biggest key was not being so stuck to, we have to do it the way that we've always done it. There's only one way to do it, but we were able to, flex and make it happen. So
Can you give a breakdown of some of those featured programs that you have? You mentioned a couple of them, the PAR and the Eyes Above the Horizon. Can you go into a little more depth on
yeah,
each three featured programs in your
sure.
profile?
So we have the Passionate 2 responsibility program, and that's our motivational, like our program where we're going to the different schools, do motivational speaking, participating at different like seminars, convention, and having a presence. And we do that as we get members from the local area and who are part of our team to go and be present. It's for people to see that we are out here and we are the same as everyone else, and to show them our story and really connect on that lower level with the students and with the kids in the community. Then we have our Eyes Above the Horizon program, and that's our outreach program where we're taking um, that that interest, and now we're like developing it more by actually giving them that hands-on of, you're going to fly a plane. And in this, if anybody's ever watched someone fly a plane for their first time, it's a complete change in their life at that point. They can't go back to when they didn't know about aviation. And we've seen kids where you get in the plane, teenagers, they're always the coolest people in the world. They'll smile. They're like, I'm a teenager, I'm too cool for stuff. Nothing impresses me. I'm gonna just stand there. And you get them in a plane, they fly to come down, and they're grinning from ear to ear. And now, even if they didn't want to become a pilot, they now know that if I just flew a plane, what else can I do? What other things can I accomplish that I may not have thought that I could do? And it gives them, they walk with their head held higher, they have a little bit more pride. And then they start asking questions. So what do I need to do? And that's where it reinforces: get good grades in school, listen to your parents, develop your character, all of the things that help make them a better person and a better member of society, even if they don't become pilots, because it's developing them as people, as they're taking what they've learned and moving on beyond that. And from that program, in that program, not only do we just fly with students, but we also have different character building sessions. We do team building during those sessions. We teach them about college and career. We teach them about the history and legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, so that when they leave that day, they have a full day of knowledge, and that just gets them sparked to help them move forward, with what's next. And the next thing we have is our double victory flight program. And with double victory flight program, we take students in a two week immersion program where they will spend 2 weeks to get to their solo. And for anybody who's a pilot knows that flying a plane by yourself is one of the single most important parts of your aviation career life, because that's the first time you are pilot in command, the first time where you know it's all on you and that's it. And so you get a 17 to 18-year-old to that point in 2 weeks. One, to be able to get them to where you're trusting them to be able to do this, they have to grow a lot. You have to grow a lot, not just in the skills, but mentally, be able to take on that responsibility. and and when you watch that 2 weeks, they grow in character, they grow as a team. And when they accomplish that, it's life changing. It's life changing. And for those that, like I said, who decide that they want to continue on with their aviation career, through that 2 weeks, they've been connected with other professional aviators in the military, in the civilian sector, in the private sector, to really guide that path for them, as well as college students to help show them how to get into college, how to make the next step if they want to go to the Air Force Academy or things of that nature. And it's just a life-changing program at that point. So those are our three programs, and we have some things that branch out from those. And like I said, with the Odds Above the Horizon, we have the LFA, the Legacy Flights Across America, which is a subset of that. And we're going to be putting out some more scholarships, what I'll talk about here in a little bit, that'll kind of line up with those programs as well.
I want to touch on that the double victory program again.
Yeah.
That's ambitious, getting someone to solo in 2 weeks,
Yes.
especially like a
That is.
17 or 18 year old, as opposed to even like someone in their mid to late 20s. Like that, that sounds like a very ambitious goal. Um,
Yes. It
you're
is.
in the process. You're in the process with a program like that, building confidence in making men and women out of this program. Um, Not everybody, regardless of age. Some people need 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? Like just a little extra training. What happens if and when somebody's not quite ready at that 2 week point? Because you don't want to ruin confidence in that situation. But there's impacts, whether it's weather or COVID or whatever, aircraft maintenance, like stuff happens even outside of the youth's control in that scenario. That could negatively
Yeah.
impact that timeline.
Yeah, you're right. And so we go in with the goal that we're going to get everybody to solo. With we expect perfection, but we accept excellence. Right? So we
Mhm.
know that because of all the things that go on, we may not get there, but we're going to uh find ways to get them as close as they can, even if it's a supervised solo, because they're not ready at that point. And then if they're really close, what we'll do is we'll try to work it so when they go home or wherever they're going, we can at least try to work with whoever they're with to be able to get them to that next stage, to be able to at least get to that solo. So we definitely try to work it, but we know we're realistic enough to know that all of them aren't going to get there. It's it's tough. It can happen, but it's it's tough. It's a crunch timeline. So that weather and
Yep.
maintenance are the two things that they'll throw it off. But if you got good weather and you can work the time, it can happen. It can happen. But the students also have to realize that that's not a small feat. Like it's not the average person isn't going to go in there and do average work and get it done in 2 weeks. It is
Yep.
definitely going to take a special type of a person to be able to get in there and get it. And that's where making sure we're selecting the right students for it, that have a good chance of making it through. So but yeah, it's it's tough. And I'll say, watching students go through it, you watch them go through the ups and the downs because of the amount of pressure that it takes to get there. I actually got a student, a young lady, to solo in 2.5 weeks a few months ago. Um, and we flew pretty much every day. We had 3 days of weather. We had maintenance delays, so she's supposed to be done on a Friday before, but we ended up finishing her on the following Tuesday. And just watching the ups and downs, like, she told me towards the end, she was like, on the second day, she was like, I was gonna just not show up the second day because I just thought it was just too hard. It was just so much stuff. And I was glad that I was able to motivate her and help build her confidence, to help her realize that it's hard, but you can make it through. And she doubted herself at some points, but once she did it, once she got done with it, her whole world was changed, because she could not believe that she accomplished that in that amount of time. And from there, she was like, I'm registering for college. I'm gonna go get a degree in this, and I'm gonna work these college. It was like she did that, and it was just like her whole mentality on what she was gonna do just changed. Those are I'll say that those are the most rewarding times right there, is when you see that growth, um, in students from that beginning to that end in that short period of time. It's just, their parents see a big change in them. We see a big change in them. It's just, they're totally changed.
You mentioned a moment ago scholarships,
Yes.
and I want to talk about that. Um, but before we do,
Hmm.
these programs that you're talking about aren't cheap.
No.
Aviation's expensive. Aviation training's expensive. Scholarships, which you're about to discuss, are expensive. How
Right.
is this program funded?
That's a very good question, and it's different than what most people believe. People believe that there's, these huge government grants that come in, and these huge sponsors that give us all this money to make this happen. But the reality is, we get a lot of our funding and support from our community, and from people donating, and people giving, little they have to give to us, to be able to give to the kids. Um, so it's mainly from the support of the communities. That's where our support comes from. 90% of it. We'll get some here and there from some corporate sponsors, but ultimately it's people just giving the little bit they have to support the cause. And everybody on the team is a volunteer. um, Nobody gets paid who volunteers for LFA or holds a position on Legacy Flight Academy. And I highlight to people that the caliber of people that we have on the team, that is value in itself, because if we had to pay the people on our team, we wouldn't be able to operate, because they're they're too expensive.
Too expensive.
Too
Yep.
expensive. I can't afford to pay. I can't afford to pay the people on my team. So it's
Yep.
it's a it's a huge value to have the volunteers we have, and the donors that are given to help us out, whether it's giving funding, whether it's giving aircraft, whether it's fuel, but it's all volunteer and all supported by all of you out here. That's how we make this happen.
When you started this conversation about Legacy Flight Academy, you mentioned that you had no idea aviation was an option until I think you were talking about Naval Air Patrol or something. And that was the spark that led you down this path. Now, basically, I think the key term here is marketing.
Hmm.
This is providing you an opportunity to market to young kids who have never considered um, aviation as an option. What kind of marketing strategies are you implementing um, in terms of what Legacy Flight Academy is, the opportunities that aviation brings, and I also think it's vitally important from a funding perspective to get people to um, basically to get your program in front of people with some cash who can donate. Um, what kind of marketing strategies have you implemented, and what is your strategy in the future regarding that specifically?
Yes, very, very good question. And what I have learned is that it is not as easy as it should be. You think, oh, this is a good cause, people will just support, and and I have to constantly remind myself, and we always talk about it as a team, is that you operate a nonprofit the same way you operate a business. Like we're still out here competing in some way, shape, or form, because there's a lot of nonprofits and there's a lot of great causes out there, and we have to make sure that people know about our causes. So we have, we do have a somewhat of a social media presence. That's some area that I'll say that we need to work on improving, because that's where a lot of things are going. But our main way that we have marketed is through a lot of word of mouth. Being in the Air Force, a lot of people in the Air Force know about Legacy Flight Academy. Now, there's certain ways where we've done events like on Air Force bases, or like participated at air shows, or done things in the eye of the Air Force. Um, the the word of mouth piece works really well, especially when the people on your team are in an area that people are going to see. So having a lot of military folks on there, a lot of professional aviators who are now military on the team and supporting, really gets the word out heavily. We go to a lot of conferences. We go to a lot of youth programs, whether it's BEA, whether it's other anything to do with STEM and aviation. We try to make ourselves present because we want to be visibly seen in the realm of aviation, and that way has worked very well. But we got to continue to transition to getting that other online presence and continue developing that social media um, avenue of representation, because um, as we get older, the pilots that are coming in are younger and younger, and our spread of age difference is changing. So we got to make sure that we're keeping up with that as far as getting people out there. So that's where this last year, really staying involved in social media and online has been a big help.
So right now, LinkedIn and TikTok have the most organic reach. It's the easiest for content to be disseminated to a larger group of people. And it's kind of perfect for what you're doing, i.e., LinkedIn for the business side and getting donors, TikTok for the kids. That's who's on it, man. This 18-year-olds, they're killing it on there. And quite honestly, I'm 40 and I'm hooked. I love TikTok. I spend too much time on that platform. I'm embarrassed to say it. Actually, I'm not embarrassed to say it because I'm saying, but it sounds like those are great opportunities for for your for your vision and your business there. Um, say that too, and I think TikTok, and I want to talk Kilo Tango Aviation eventually. I'm not going to forget about this whole scholarship thing that you brought up a little bit ago. But your Kilo Tango Aviation, you've got the cameras in the airplane, and you're doing soft field takeoffs and talking through like that was fun to watch. And I've been a pilot for 15-20 years. I can only imagine what somebody who's just getting started in is going to think of that. And that could be content like that could be applied to TikTok. Now maybe you are on TikTok and I just didn't see it. And that's my fault for not going deep there. But yeah, anyways, are you on TikTok? You kind of made a face when I said that.
Well, I smiled about it because I have an 18-year-old daughter. So her role in Kilo Tango is to help me figure out how to get it all TikToked.
Awesome. So you've got an industry expert at
Right.
Renting space in your house, an industry expert.
Right.
That's great.
So yes, and as I thought about it, I said, man, it's just I just gotta, she's gonna help me get all that work, because I'm like, I can fly it, I can get the videos. It's about just getting it and putting it together and making it happen, because you're right, TikTok is on fire. And it really is, just like you said, I look at a TikTok and I'll be sliding through. I'm like, man, this is funny. Like, you'll just go through
Yep.
for however long, and next thing you know, like an hour's gone by, and you've, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
definitely want to take advantage of that as a space to share aviation, because just like everything else is shared on it, if you watching that on TikTok is it's no different than watching it on anywhere else. It's just a matter of just putting it out there. So I really want to be able to share all of that, with the world in every possible way. And that's a valid point. We can't we can't get old and think that, well, I don't. People are like, I'm not doing TikTok. It's like, but that's where it's at. You know, can't lose it.
Yep.
Can't fall behind.
Yep. The scholarships. Let's go there.
Okay. Yes. So we recognize that with this upcoming year, we're not going to be able to have as many in-person programs for everybody to participate, and be able to not be able to get everybody, as many people in airplanes. But we do still recognize the need for our youth to have the opportunity to get time and move forward. So with Legacy Flight Academy, we're going to be offering some scholarships to one to get at least to kind of replace what we would have done in real life. So Eyes Above the Horizon Scholarship, we're going to give scholarship to get students up to, maybe they're solo. So a few $1,000s that's going to get them started on their path. So it's at least a jump start to get them rolling. Or if they're already kind of rolling, it kind of helps push them along to kind of remove some of that barrier of money. As we talk about, that's definitely a barrier to entry. And then we're also going to give a scholarship for a private pilot scholarship. So to get somebody from zero to hero. And that's going to be big, because, being able to not only get their flight training done, we're also going to connect them with a mentor that's in Legacy Flight Academy, to be able to stay in contact with them throughout the training. So it's one thing to give somebody $10,000, say, hey, get your private pilot certificate, and they go and fly. The thing is, your flight instructor is going to teach you how to fly the plane. And, some flight instructors are going to, they're going to help you out in other ways. But essentially, your flight instructor is there to get you through flight training. But as we know, as I've, talked to so many young people when it comes to flying, there's so many other aspects of it that they don't know how to balance yet. And, having a mentor while they're going through, possibly the hardest, most different training they've ever gone through in their life at that point, having a mentor to kind of guide them through it while they're going through it, to have ask them questions, is key to their success, external of their flight instructor. And the other scholarship that we're going to give, and this is actually where Kilo Tango is actually going to give a scholarship um, on behalf of Legacy Flight Academy, is I'm going to provide a student with the private pilot certificate. I'm in the local Atlanta area. I'm going to train them from zero to private pilot in a specified amount of time, so that they don't have the barrier of worrying about having to fly flight school, and they don't have to worry about figuring out what, the training, the money. It's just show up and we're going to get it done. So, and that scholarship, like I said, that's a Kilo Tango Aviation is going to be providing the funding for that one. So
Sounds like a great segue into Tango Aviation. What it
yeah,
is, why you started it, and when you started it.
yeah. So when I had got back to, I moved to Atlanta when I became a reservist. Officially became a civilian flight instructor, certified flight instructor, and this past spring, when it was getting ready to be, it was COVID hit and everything went haywire. Everybody, everything was gone to the wind. And being that I was already instructing, I was like, I have to find a way to be able to find a way to still be impactful, and still, find a way to make a living still, amongst other things. So started Kilo Tango in last spring. And what I found was I was doing a lot of mentoring and virtual flight training with students. I was doing a lot of it. I said, well, I need to go ahead and start a business and start doing some things to kind of help be able to provide resources to students, on a virtual basis, because I can't always get to everybody. And that actually made me able to reach people that I'd be able to help who were in Texas, who were in other areas that, hey, I need some help with this. And we could go through, and actually help do training with them that way. Um, the thing that I think about when I think about Kilo Tango is it's aviation, motivation, and preparation, because um, those are the things that you need in order to make it through training. You got to be motivated and you got to be prepared. If you have those two things, all the other things can come together. But if you don't have that motivation and you're not prepared, when you show up or when you get to a check ride or whatever it may be, you're not going to do well, no matter how motivated you are. All too often I see people like, I can't wait to do this, everything. It's like, are you prepared? Did you do your pre-study? Did you set yourself up? And I saw that, a lot of people weren't. And that came to civilian aviation and military aviation, came to people trying to apply for pilot slots in the reserves or on active duty. They would, like, I'm gonna just go take my AFOQT. Did you prepare? Well, I'm pretty smart, so I'm sure I'll just show up and I'll be okay. And then they're like, well, I didn't do that well. I said, well, you didn't prepare. You got to prepare. So
Yep.
those are some of the things that I wanted to do when I started Kilo Tango, was be able to provide some of those resources. The other thing that is upcoming in the spring is an online ground school. And there's a lot of online ground schools out there where you can study the material and then prep you for your written exam. What I plan on doing is a holistic approach to that, is not just having the online ground school, but also have ground school sessions, once a week along with it, should they want it, to be able to bring all that knowledge they spent that whole week going over, and then actually going in detail and depth in a classroom setting, virtually, of course, to be able to help them understand, all right, we went through aircraft systems. Let's talk about it. Now that you went through it, let's talk about it. To kind of connect it, to bridge that gap between just online and between classroom. Because a lot of people just do the online and they may pass the test, but they don't understand it. And then a lot of people have gone away from sitting in classrooms doing private pilot ground school for 4 hours a day for 2 or 3 weeks. They just don't have the time to do it. So by combining the two methods, we're able to actually get both points of that, because then you get to get people the way they learn in both aspects, seeing it, hearing it, reinforcing it. So they're getting to actually get all that in one place.
Is that a Part 61 program?
It will be part 61, yes. So it'll be between 35 and
Okay.
40 hours of ground, of ground, along with the classroom sessions, the group sessions as well.
From the business side of this, how challenging is it to create a Part 61 program and work with the FAA in that regard?
It is more challenging than I thought it was. it's because there's a lot of material. The challenge with the course is you have to make sure that you have the material you needed so that the students have the knowledge. One, you have to make sure that it's engaging, because you don't want to put people to sleep. And you have to make sure you meet the requirements, so that if you're signing people off to take the written exam, that you've met the requirements of the regulations. So you have to make sure that you understand what those rules and regulations are. You have to understand, like, what are the things that are required. So it's challenging. It takes a lot. Like I said, it's a lot more work than I thought it would be, but it's coming together good though.
Are there are there expenses associated with being a Part 61 program outside of brick and mortar and training materials? But I'm speaking specifically for getting the Part 61 approval from the FAA.
Well,
Can you
that's the
talk about
thing.
that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's the thing with Part 61. The only you don't have to have a school. You don't. The only approval you have to have is that you are a certified flight instructor, and that your certified flight instructor certificate is not expired.
Okay.
That's the key when if you're a Part 61 instructor. As far as the ground school and the written exams, you have to make sure that uh, you have to give a sign off to the students that they've either accomplished the ground training, a home study course, or that you have given them the proper amount of training in the particular areas to be able to succeed. And that's where I kind of doubled down on making sure that I created a ground school, and I'm also giving them ground instruction so that I know that they're prepared, so that they're confident when they, when they go take their written exam. But the hardest part is the certification is just make sure you have your ratings and everything are up to date. That's the key. And as a Part 61, you have to make sure on your own that you're not missing anything when it comes to the requirements of the student. At a Part 141 school, you're at a school that has everything lined up for you. So, as an instructor, you just show up and make sure you follow their checklist. As Part 61, you got to make sure you have your checklist, in line.
Yep. You are currently teaching your daughter how to fly. Is that correct?
Yes. So my daughter, she is learning how to fly now. She also, luckily, she got a scholarship with Civil Air Patrol that's helping fund some of her training, which is awesome. I actually took her flying her for her first time when she was 8, and that was when I was in school as a navigator in the Air Force. So it was when I really had got my first real introduction and really being in aviation. I was like, man, this is so awesome. Like, she's 8, I need her to get involved in this. And she'll tell the story all the time. But when she went on her first flight, I took her with an instructor. It's funny because the instructor had a broken arm, which but he still could fly the plane. And that's just always the part she always reminds me about. It's like, he's good. He's a pilot. He's good. Uh,
Yeah.
and she remembers that, I remember flying at that early age, and I've kept her involved in aviation programs since she was young. The thing I didn't want to force on, I never wanted to force her to be like, hey, you got to be a pilot, or hey, you got to go to the military, because I was like, that's what I did, but I'm going to expose you to it and you can make your own decision. But through her being exposed to it, it kind of pushed. She saw, oh man, I get to meet all these pilots are pretty cool. I want to be a pilot. And she joined Civil Air Patrol, joined Chappie James Flight Academy. She's been part of a lot of different programs, because she showed interest in it. And as I watch her go through what she wants to, because she wants to be a fighter pilot, as I watch her go through her journey, that has honestly been the motivating factors for the things that I provide when I'm looking at Kilo Tango and what Legacy Flight Academy has. Because I think about that young person who doesn't know what's next and doesn't know what they need or think they know what they need. And that's where, being able to provide FOQT preparation, providing an online ground school. These are all things I thought about. What are things that, if I was in her shoes, that would make my life easier? Because if I can figure out what's going to make her life easier in her journey, it's going to make everybody else's life easier. When it comes to learning how to fly and growing as an aviator, even when it comes to past private, in the instrument commercial, into a career as a civilian, in the civilian sector, as a private aviator, as a commercial pilot, as a military pilot. There's things that you just don't know as a young person um, that I know that, all right, these are things that we need. And constantly people have asked, hey, well, do you know anywhere I can learn this? Or how do I, prep for the FOQT? How do I do these things? And those are those things that I want Kilo Tango to fill, because I see that in my kid, and I see that in all the kids that I mentor and guide, is their desire to get to the next step, but not knowing where to go. So I want to be able to create the place for them to go to be able to get through their career.
I love everything you're doing, and I love the selflessness and the motivation, and the fact that you're essentially building two businesses around exactly what you love. um, that's inspiring and motivating, and it's kind of a lesson for anybody out there that's listening, is you can literally build a business or a nonprofit or a program or a mission around what you care about. And we have social media at our disposal to get message out. Um, so I commend you, sir. I respect out of you. I love it. Uh, I do have a question. Teaching your daughter how to fly with the stress and the challenges associated early on. Do you like get into like elbowing each other in the cockpit or what? How's that going?
Oh
Any
man.
issues or is
So I, I I'll tell you that, and also tell you about when I flew with my wife for the first time as well. So
oh cool.
so when it came to my daughter flying, I had to. I always chose, like, I never wanted to be her coach, and I never wanted to be her primary instructor. I have, because I've watched too many times where, one, I've watched my friends do it with their kids, and I'm like, I'm not fighting with my kid over this stuff, and I don't want carryover from one thing to the other, because I loved introducing her to aviation. I love teaching her, but when it comes to being the one that has to sign her off, it's a whole different level. And as much as because I mean, as an instructor, you kind of beat your students up a little bit. Like you just do,
Mm-hmm.
you have to. And as a parent, I already beat my kid enough and beat kid up enough about, oh, well, you didn't do the dishes, you didn't do this, you gotta, get your grades right. And I don't want to beat her up over all these things. So I'm like, so when I go fly with her, I want it to be, we're gonna go have fun. because it is so important to me that she does well in flying, that I don't want my influence of, because I'm smart enough to know that it's hard for me to separate it. Um, so when it came time for her to get her solo done, I was actually part of the program that she was in. She was actually in the Air Force's ACE program, where she actually got her solo through the program. And I was part of the team that was there, but I wasn't her instructor there. Her instructor was instructor. I just motivated her and was like hyping her up and being her hype man, while she was going through it. But someone else was the one telling her she was good enough or not good enough or had to get done what she had to get done, and I got to enjoy the benefits of just motivating her, telling her everything was good. So I fly with her. Me and her, we go and I teach her things and I sign her off on certain things. But when it comes to like prep ride check, I'll do the ground stuff with her. But I give the primary control to her primary instructor, and I'm an alternate instructor if you need someone to like do a cross country with her or go in a pattern with her. But nope, not doing it.
Good on you for recognizing that early and being able to differentiate that in maintaining a healthy father-daughter relationship and maintaining that love creation. So that's that's definitely smart that you had the foresight to see that as a potential obstacle.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and my wife, I took her flying for the first time in early December, and it was like, oh, you're gonna learn how to fly, since I mean, you're Kilo Tango too, so you know, she's like, well, I'll learn at some point, and so I take her flying. I was like, oh, like I do with most people when I get in the plane, I'm like, all right, sit in the right seat, and they're like, well, aren't you? It's like, nope, you're the pilot in command, so you're gonna fly. Well, that works on everybody except your wife. So I get in the I got in the plane and I said, well, your place. He said, why do I need to fly if my husband's in the plane? I was like, I was like, all right. So so it just gives me a laugh as to recognizing that, as much as I will teach my family, but I am not going to be their primary instructor. I will give them the knowledge. I will make it will be fun when we fly, but I will pay someone to fly with them so that they can deal with the business end of that, and they can come home to me and cry about how come they didn't know how to do the emergency procedures, and it's not my fault.
Exactly. There you go. Well said. Well, I've taken up about an hour of your time. I want people to know how to find you and Legacy Flight Academy. Should
Most
they be so inclined to donate or share your message and mission to
Yes.
others?
So yes, legacyflightacademy.org is our website. Like I said, you want to donate, we greatly appreciate. Whether it's $1, $2, or $1,000, all of it goes towards helping the next generation. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You can Google us and you'll find us. Um, you know, myself, Kenny Thomas. I'm on IG. One Fly Noop, also Kilo Tango Aviation. So you'll be able to find all of me if you go to One Fly Noop on Instagram. You'll find Legacy Flight Academy as well as Kilo Tango Aviation. Be on the lookout for all the events we're going to have with Legacy Flight Academy upcoming this year. Scholarships, be on the lookout for that. And Kilo Tango, keep tuned to our IG and um, our upcoming TikTok. Look for more instructional videos and ways to succeed in aviation there. Um, we're on the web. We're out there.
And we'll put all those links in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
As we close out, is there anything that our network can do to help out with anything you've got going on? Or is there anything that you wished I would have brought up uh, in this discussion that maybe I overlooked?
No, I think we did a really good job of highlighting, the purposes, goals, and overall missions of both programs. And when it comes to spreading the word, when we put out these scholarships, I'd like you to put it out there because I want everybody to at least have the opportunity to know about the scholarships that we're providing, and so they can support. Um, like, subscribe, and follow. Kilo Tango has a YouTube. I think that's one thing I didn't talk about is have a YouTube. So um, you can learn so much. Just go on our different social media pages to stay connected. I think that's the thing is go to our social media and stay connected with us, engaged. Definitely check out the Kilo Tango YouTube. That's something I'm really growing at this point as I'm developing myself as a videographer as well as a flight instructor.
It's amazing, right? You start a business and to figure out all these other tasks, I can't even tasks and skill sets that have nothing to do with your
Oh, yes.
career, but they're essential business tools to get the word out there. And it's
It,
something that I'm learning and our team's learning. It's probably one of the more challenging aspects of having a business.
it is because I can teach anybody anything about aviation, but being able to translate that into making a video, present it in a way that people want to hear it, and send that is the art part that I am learning and getting better at because that's my challenge right now.
Yep. Well, listen, everybody, go check out Kilo Tango Aviation on all the platforms, especially YouTube. Watch Kenny, watch Kenny learn and grow as a YouTuber as well. That in and of itself should be a fun journey to watch.
Yeah.
So, with that, I appreciate your time. It's been fun, and keep us updated with all the scholarship opportunities, and we'll do what we can to continue to share your message and get visibility for you and your programs and all the good things you're working on.
Most definitely. Thanks for the help. It's good being on here. Take care.